I was going to run the Las Vegas Marathon, but I thought I'd put that aside and drop in and say hello. How's that? All right. Thank you all. It's a wonderful turnout, and thank you all very much for being here. And let me begin by thanking the Mariachi Alma del Sol for their music. Let me thank Miles Cooper. Let me thank Grisha Lopez. Let me thank Maria Nieto Otra. And let me thank Congresswoman Dina Titus for her remarks. So what I want to do is just chat for a little bit, and then we'll take some questions and your comments. Let me begin by telling you what you already know, and that we live in an unprecedented moment in American history and an extremely dangerous time. We have a president of the United States who is not just a pathological liar. He is not just running one of the most corrupt administrations in the history of our country, but he is a racist. He is a sexist. He is a xenophobe. He is a homophobe. And he's a religious bigot. Other than that, he's a pretty nice guy. But that is in all seriousness, it is, we can disagree with somebody's politics. And I have conservative friends who I disagree with, but that does not make them racists or pathological liars. And it is a very sad state of affairs that we have somebody like that who is in the White House. And I think that what you're going to see in the next weeks to come is this president will be impeached, and he should be impeached. And he should be impeached because he has used his office to obstruct justice. He should be impeached because he is in violation of the Emoluments Clause of the Constitution, and where he is very blatantly, really incredibly, used his office to make more money for his family. And lastly, of course, he should be impeached because he has used national security aid to Ukraine in order to try to undermine a potential political opponent. And those are all grounds for impeachment. But our campaign is more than just defeating Donald Trump. What our campaign is about is a political revolution designed to transform our economy and our government so that we finally begin to address the needs of working families in America, not just the 1%. What Trump is doing is what demagogues always do throughout the world. He didn't invent this approach. What demagogues always do is find a minority and then try to rally the American people against that minority. And maybe the minority is gay people, maybe the minority is Jewish people, maybe the minority is African American people. But today, that major minority that he is attacking happens to be undocumented immigrants in this country today, mostly Latino people. And what he is trying to do is to win votes, as demagogues do all over this country, by attacking that population. Now, the reason that we are going to win the Democratic primary and the reason that we are going to defeat Trump is that our politics are exactly the opposite of what he is trying to do. He is trying to divide us up based on the color of our skin, based on where we were born, based on our sexual orientation, based on even our religion. That's what he is trying to do. What we are trying to do successfully is bring people together black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, gay and straight, people born in the United States, people who have immigrated to the United States. And we're going to bring those people together, our people, the overwhelming majority of the American people. And I got to tell you, for me, this is a personal issue because my father emigrated to this country from Poland at the age of 17 without a nickel in his pocket, couldn't speak a word of English, and he was fleeing extreme poverty and anti-Semitism. So the immigrant experience is something that I feel very strongly. And what we will do together in the White House, and by the way, the message of our campaign is us, not me. And that means we are in this together. And the most important and first thing that we do is create a culture in this country of compassion and love and not hatred and divisiveness. And we become, I believe, stronger as human beings when we care about each other rather than the Trump philosophy of stepping on people in order to make huge amounts of money. So I think compassion trumps greed, and that's what we are about. So let me just tell you a little bit, starting off with immigration, then I want to get to some other issues that I know that are on your mind. So number one, we stopped the demonization of undocumented people in this country. Number two, on day one, through an executive order, we undo all of the ugly and racist executive orders that Trump has done. And among many other things, that means restoring legal status to the 1.8 million young people and their parents eligible for the DACA program. It means ending private prisons and detention centers in this country. It means making certain that at the border we do not have agents of the federal government ripping tiny babies from the arms of their mothers and putting children into cages. It means that we end the ICE raids that are terrorizing communities all over America. You know, we don't pay enough attention to what goes on in America in terms of how it impacts children. All right, let me give you just two examples. I can give you many more. Number one, the gun violence that we have seen all across this country, most recently in California a few days ago. What that is about is not only the killing and the murdering of so many people in this country, it is something else. And that is that kids today go to school and they are frightened. And their parents are frightened. I have grandchildren, as is the case all over this country, who undergo these drills in order to prepare for something terrible. Think about what that does to a child who is 7 or 8 years of age. Having to learn how to protect yourself from something terrible happening in a school. And then I want to take it to the issue of children in this country of undocumented parents. In Las Vegas, in Los Angeles, and many other school districts around the country, the bulk of the children are children of color. And what I learned in talking to teachers in Las Vegas and in Los Angeles and elsewhere is that you got kids who are going to school worried that when they come home from school, their mom or their dad may not be there. All right, can you imagine? It is hard for somebody not in that position to understand the kind of stress and anxiety that those children go through. I talked to a young person months ago here in Las Vegas who said his father was undocumented. And he and his sister, I think, were in a car. Father was driving. His father drove too fast. And a police officer drove by and stopped the car. And suddenly they all stopped breathing in the car. And the police officer said, "Are you documented?" And they lied. The guy said, "Yes, I am." Police officer said, "Okay, have a nice day." They drove on. And what the family was thinking is if the police officer had asked a different question, that whole family would have been disrupted. So this is the kind of stress that is on the minds of millions of people in this country, and that is absolutely not what this country should be about. So what we are going to do is aggressively, as early as we can, very, very early, first weeks of the administration, is do what the American people want. And what the American people want is comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. All right, let me move to some other issues that I know that are on your mind. Our campaign is not just about defeating Trump. Our campaign is about understanding that in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, we have the capability of making sure that all of our people have a decent standard of living. That's not a radical idea. It's not a utopian idea. It's what we can do. Right now in America, you got many, many millions of people who are working for starvation wages. That's just a fact. They're working for $8 an hour, they're working for $9 an hour, they're working for $10 an hour, and nobody could make it on those wages. And that is why, as a nation, we must raise the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour. And when we talk about wages, what we also have got to make sure is that women do not continue to make 80 cents on the dollar compared to men. We believe in equal pay for equal work. And the other thing that we believe in, that I believe in very strongly, is that one of the reasons that the middle class in this country has declined for the last 45 years has been systematic attacks on unions. Now, I've been in Congress for a long time, and I don't think there's anybody there who has a stronger lifetime pro-union voting record than I do. I think it's 100%. So what we are going to do is make it easier for workers to join unions, not harder. And my hope is that we're going to double the number of workers in unions in our first 4 years. 4 years ago, when I came to Nevada, I said that we have to rethink public education in America, that we've got to make public colleges and universities tuition free. And that means that in America, every person, not just young people, regardless of income, should have the right to get a higher education. Maybe it's college, maybe it's a trade school. But it is harder and harder for people to make it into the middle class without that higher education. 4 years ago, that was seemingly a radical idea. People said, Bernie, you're crazy, it'll never happen. What I want you to know is all over this country, states, cities, counties are moving to make public colleges and universities tuition free. And in fact, medical schools now, some of the leading medical schools in America are now becoming tuition free, which is a big deal. And then the second part of that equation is that I do not want to see young people continuing to struggle economically, not able to get married and have kids, not being able to buy a car or a home because of the outrageous level of student debt. And that's why we're going to cancel all student debt in America. And we're going to pay for that by putting a modest tax on Wall Street speculation. And that is not the only tax that we're going to impose on the rich and the powerful. You know, it is really funny. It really is. Some of you may have noticed, if you watch TV, you read the papers, that the billionaire class is literally getting very, very nervous. You know, they're worth $100 billion, they're worth $50 billion, and suddenly they're in tears. Oh my God, we're going to have to pay more in taxes. How do we get by on $30 billion? Such a stress on our. They're literally thinking about how they can avoid a wealth tax. Maybe they get divorced. That could help. Maybe they leave the country. They're sitting around with their accountants figuring out how they can avoid paying their fair share of taxes. But we got bad news for them. They are going to pay their fair share of taxes. And I just want to say a few words about another issue, which is, I know, on your minds, and it's a very serious issue here in Nevada. And that is, all of you should know, and the media doesn't report it too much, Congress doesn't talk about it too much, the United States is the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child. We are the only one. And brothers and sisters, we are going to end that international embarrassment. Now, if Canada and the UK and France and Germany and Holland and Finland and Denmark and Sweden and every other major country on earth can guarantee health care to all people, please don't tell me that we can't do it here in the United States. Now, here in America, and I want you all to think about it, we spend twice as much per person on health care as do the people of any other country. Okay? We're spending twice as much. It's like I buy a car for $25,000, you buy a car for $50,000, my car works better than your car. Something is wrong, all right? Something is wrong. So we're spending twice as much, almost $11,000 for every man, woman, and child, and yet we got 87 million people who are uninsured or underinsured. Do you all know what I mean by underinsured? That means you got health care, you got health insurance, except doesn't mean anything. You never can use it when you need to use it. All right, you got a large deductible, or you got a co-payment that you can't afford. So this is what we do on the Medicare for All. We eliminate all premiums. You got it? You're not paying any more premiums. We eliminate all co-payments. And we eliminate one of the stupidest things that I've ever heard of in my life. You know, we take it for granted, this concept of a deductible. You all know what a deductible is? All right. So, it sucks. Yeah, that's one definition. So here's the point. You got insurance, except you can't use the insurance unless you spend the first, whatever it may be. You got $5,000? What kind of deductibles do people have here? I'm just curious. How many? $2,600. $6,000? Do I hear higher? It's like an auction. What do you got? How much? 16 deductible? And you pay for this insurance? All right, so you got to spend the first $16,000 out of your own pocket before the insurance kicks. That is a great policy. I mean, it is totally insane. And by the way, she will be included in the ranks of the insured. She's insured after she spends $16,000, which she probably doesn't have, for the health insurance she needed. Now, what's the result of all of that? The result is, that's right, woman here just said we're dying. And she wasn't being facetious. There are 30,000 people a year in this country who die needlessly because they don't get to a doctor when they should. Ask your doctor next time you go if he or she has treated people who got into the office too late. And they will tell you, yeah. Okay? 30,000 die, and I want to tell you even something that's crazier than that and is important for us to jump outside of the box, to think outside of the box. I want you to think about this for a moment. You're feeling sick. You go to the doctor. The doctor says, Mary, I am very sorry to tell you, you have cancer. Okay? So Mary is diagnosed with cancer. Her head is spinning. All right, what kind of treatment should she get? What doctor should she go to? What medicine should she use? What hospital should she go to get that treatment? It's just overwhelming. But she, in this country, uniquely has now got to worry about something else. And that is if she runs up a bill of $100,000 or more, how in God's name, if she is a working class person, how's she going to pay for that bill? And the result is that 500,000 people go bankrupt in America because of medically related debt. Can you believe that? So just think about the cruelty of a system. You got enough to worry about if you're diagnosed with a serious illness. You got to get back on your feet. You got to go through all kinds of difficult treatment. You got to find the right doctor. And then on top of that, to worry that your family is going to be financially ruined is unbelievable, and it is not what this country should be about. So what we are doing is nothing more than expanding Medicare. Medicare is a very strong program right now, but you got to be 65 or older to get into it. So we're going to expand Medicare to cover hearing aids, dental care, and eyeglasses. And home health care. And then in year one, right now, you got to be 65 to get into Medicare. We lowered that age in year one from 65 down to 55. Year two, 45. Year three, 35. Year four, everybody's in it. That's it. That really is not so complicated. That is the simplest way to get to universal health care. Now, the next question that's being debated is, okay, how are you going to pay for that? Fair question. How are you going to pay for it? And I'll tell you how. We're not going to be paying for it by having a $16,000 deductible. We're not going to be paying for it by having many of you paying $1,000 a month in premiums. Now, you can call a premium whatever you want, but I would call it a tax for the insurance companies, okay? We ain't going to pay for it by having you pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. In some cases, 10 times more than they pay in other countries. Under our bill, nobody pays more than $200 a year for prescription drugs, okay? But healthcare ain't free. It's expensive. How do we pay for it? Well, we have a number of options that we have laid out, but for the people in this room, what we do is have a 4% income tax excluding the first $29,000 in income. That means if you are the average worker in America, you make 60, your family makes $60,000, you will pay 4% on $31,000 of income, which is roughly $1,200 a year. All right? Now, how is $1,200 a year for comprehensive, including dental care, including eyeglasses, hearing aids, home health care, any doctor you want to go to, any nurse you want to go to, any hospital you want to go? Not a bad deal, is it? So the average person in America will pay significantly less for better health care. Wealthier people will pay more. Employers obviously will be contributing as well. Now, how can we do this? This is how we do it. Last year, the drug companies and the insurance companies alone made $100 billion in profits. You got it? You can't afford insurance. They made $100 billion in profits and pay their CEOs millions of dollars a year in compensation. And then more than that, because we have a dysfunctional system in which virtually every person in this room has a different policy. You have a $5,000 deductible. You have a $10,000. You can get this prescription drugs. You're in this network. You are in that network. You can go here. You can't go there. It is enormously complicated and difficult to administer. Anybody here ever be on the phone with somebody in an insurance company trying to argue that you're entitled to what they tell you you're not entitled to? Answer is we are wasting hundreds of billions of dollars on that administrative nightmare. What Medicare for All simply says is, here's your card. You go to any doctor you want, any hospital you want. We put money into health care, not into bureaucracy and administration. Now, there's another issue out there that worries me enormously. And I think as a nation, we are nowhere near where we should be on this issue. So when we have a president who tells us that climate change is a hoax, what he is doing is not only threatening the well-being of our kids and future generations, he is threatening the well-being of the entire world. So let me just tell you what the scientists are telling us. I'm not a scientist. I failed physics in college, but I listen to scientists. What they are saying is they have underestimated the severity and the speed in which climate change is wreaking havoc all over this world, not just in the United States. We are talking about rising sea levels that will flood major cities in America and around the world. Naples, Italy, a beautiful city, is now underwater from a torrential rainfall similar to what hit Houston, Texas a few months ago. So what you're seeing is rising sea levels, the melting of the Arctic ice cap, the warming of oceans. If we don't get our act together, Miami, New York, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Bangladesh, countries and major cities all over the world will be underwater. What we're seeing is more and more drought. You are experiencing that in Nevada. God knows they've got to deal with that in California. When you have drought, you have wildfires, which have been so destructive, not only in California, but the whole West Coast. What you are seeing is flooding in a way that we have never seen it before. And when you have people all over the world living in drought conditions, what you're going to see is the mass migration of people. The United Nations estimates hundreds of millions of people may be uprooted from their homes because they don't have any clean water, they don't have land to grow their crops, and that causes national security crises. So we have a major, major crisis in front of us, and that is why I am very proud to be a strong supporter of the Green New Deal. And what the Green New Deal says is that we have got to transform not only our energy system, but the global energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And by the way, when we make that transformation, we can create up to 20 million good-paying jobs. Let me tell you something. Whenever I come to Nevada, including a day like today, I come from Vermont, you know. Right now it's probably 15 degrees, it's sleeting, it's cold. I come to Nevada, you got a lot of sunshine. I don't have to tell you that. You should be leading this country in terms of solar. And just to give you an example, so you know this, what solar can do. Jane and I don't know, is Jane here? Not here. Where are you? Where is she? There she is. That's the next First Lady. Jane, how many years ago? This is Vermont, not Nevada. How many years ago did we put solar on the roof? Like 3 or 4 years ago. All right. We put it up. This is Vermont climate, not Nevada. And essentially, you know, we paid some money for it. It will be, the money we put down will be paid back to us probably in 7 years, and then we get free electricity. Right now, we pay virtually nothing for electricity. $160 for the year. How's that? All right. So what we have got to do, you know, we had the money. There is now a federal program. You get a tax break if you install solar. We have got to make sure that everybody in America, no matter what their income is, can install solar. And what you're going to do is have basically free electricity. All right? All right, so this is a huge issue that we've got to work together on. Last couple of points that I want to make is that we have a criminal justice system which is criminal. The criminal system. And we end up, and I want everybody to appreciate this, we end up today having more people in jail, over 2 million, than any other country on earth, including China, 4 times our size. And the people in jail, as you know, are disproportionately African American, Latino, and Native American. So we need a major reform of a broken and racist criminal justice system. So what do we do? What do we do? Well, here, I don't give you a long speech on it, but this is what you do. The most important thing that we do is to invest in our children and young people in jobs and education, not invest in more jails and incarceration. So our job is to keep our kids from falling through the cracks, from dropping out of school, and instead to make sure that they get the jobs that they need so that they can become productive members of society and not rot in a jail. Second thing we do, among many other things, is we end the destructive war on drugs. We are going to make marijuana legal in every state in the country. We will expunge the records of those arrested for possession of marijuana. And I'll tell you what else we're going to do. And this wasn't my idea, but it's an idea that came to us from a number of people in the African American and Latino community. And they said, you know, look, we have borne the brunt of the war on drugs. Our kids were arrested. Our kids have criminal records. Sometimes they ended up in jail. And it sounds unfair that when we legalize marijuana, you end up having a handful of corporations controlling that industry. So we have built into our criminal justice program an effort to provide many billions of dollars in help to people in the African American community, Latino community, other communities, the people who have been hit the hardest by the war on drugs, to help them profit off a legal marijuana system. You know, I am a United States Senator, and I'm on the floor of the Senate frequently, and I listen to many of my conservative colleagues talk about how they want to get government off the backs of the American people and how they believe in small government. Well, if you want to get government off the backs of the American people, you should recognize one very simple principle, and that it is that women in America should control their own bodies, not politicians. So my promise to you is I will never nominate anybody to the U.S. Supreme Court who is not 100% in favor of Roe v. Wade. And there's another issue that I know is on everybody's minds, and that is the terrible level of gun violence in this country. And the bad news is that gun violence continues. We lose about 40,000 people every year to gun violence in this country. So I will simply say to you that gun policy under our administration will be made by the people of this country, not the NRA. And the good news is there is more unanimity of thought between gun owners and non-gun owners, urban people, rural people, than you would think. And we know what we have to do to make sure that we cut back on these terrible and horrific mass shootings that we've seen. I don't have to tell anybody in Las Vegas what that's about. You experienced the worst of the worst. Let me just conclude, and we'll open it up for comments and questions, by saying this. The message of our campaign, as I said earlier, is us, not me. And that means, number one, an understanding that we are in this together. But there's another part of it, and that is an understanding that you don't see this on TV at all, and you don't hear it in the Congress at all, is that to take on the power of the corporate elite is not something that one person, no matter who that president may be, can do. All right? It can't be Bernie Sanders or anybody else, any other candidate who becomes president who can take on the corporate elite alone, because they have so much power. Do you understand what I'm talking about? All right, what I'm talking about is Wall Street, talking about the insurance companies, the drug companies, the fossil fuel industry, the military industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, the whole 1%. These people have endless amounts of money, and they lie a whole lot of the time. So they will put all kinds of ads on television, they buy think tanks, and so forth and so on. All of you who know anything about American history know that real change has never taken place from the top on down. It has always taken place from the bottom on up. That is the history of the labor movement in this country. It is the history of the civil rights movement. It is the history of the women's movement. It is the history of the gay rights movement. It is the history of the environmental movement. Real change only takes place when millions of people stand up and demand that change. And that is where we are right now. So what this campaign is about, it's not only winning here in Nevada, and with your help, we intend to win here in Nevada. you know. And it's not only winning the nomination and defeating Trump, and we intend to do that as well. It is an understanding that if we are going to create a decent standard of living for all of our people, of health care and educational opportunity for all of our people, if we're going to lead the world in tackling this global crisis of climate change, the only way we do that is when millions of people stand together. So what we are doing is not only going to win this election, we're building a movement that tells the billionaire class and the corporate elite that this country belongs to all of us, not just a few. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Okay. I think we have time for a few questions. Do we have staff? What's the mic story here? Where's our staff? All right, is that the only mic we got? Where's the other one? I don't see it. Okay, good. All right, we've got time just for a few questions. All right, I see a gentleman right here wearing that beautiful T-shirt that says Bernie on it. That's a really nice T-shirt. All right. Here, grab the mic there.
I know you're a really strong supporter of abolishing ICE. On your immigration policy website, it says you're going to abolish the Customs and Border Patrol and ICE.
No, what we say, we're going to reorganize these things so that they perform the function they should be performing. And the function they should be performing is not terrorizing the undocumented people in this country, and we are going to put an end to that. So we're going to completely change the kind of work that ICE is doing right now. All right? Okay. All right.
I want to thank you for being the candidate I actually trust.
All right.
And I think you're absolutely amazing, and you've given me faith again. One thing that we were talking about is global warming. And I have been the founder of a charity that promotes veganism. I know some of the candidates are bringing it up because they know it's the number one way to stop global warming besides, doing other things, solar. So what do you think about that? Because it's also one of the reasons children are getting obesity and diabetes.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I am not a vegan. I must confess to being a meat eater, although I am cutting back a little bit. All right, but I think we need to take a hard look at agriculture, which is really what you're talking about. Okay, I think we do. I think we have to take a look at all of the causes of carbon emission and climate change. And by the way, in terms of obesity, you're quite right. That is a major crisis facing this country, leading to diabetes and other serious illnesses. And we got to do a heck of a lot. When I talk about health care, it is not just making sure that you get to a doctor when you should. We got to do a heck of a lot better in terms of disease prevention. And that means good diet. It means exercise. It means a whole lot of stuff. Our main goal should be to keep people healthy and then treat them when they are ill. Okay, let me get, yeah, ma'am, yes.
Aloha, Senator Sanders. We are from Hawaii, and recently you tweeted in support of the Hawaiian Airlines flight attendants.
I did.
You did. Thank you. Thank you so much. We're really glad that you brought up the issue about unions and corporate greed, because it is definitely happening in our country. There's a lot of issues that you brought up, and I am just so impressed with your platform, and you've definitely got my vote.
Thank you.
Another thing that we go through in Hawaii, I'm a recent Nevada resident. I will be voting here in Nevada. Thank you. A lot of us Hawaiians have fled the islands because of the cost of living. Many of the issues you brought up, we lived through it.
Yes.
And a lot of us have chosen Nevada. And right now, I think I can speak for my friend here, Leah, and there's many of us that work for the airlines that we choose Nevada to live because of the cost of living, the people, and it's just as much a melting pot as it is
Yes,
in
it is.
Hawaii.
Yes, it is.
Just as much a melting pot. We have our immigration issues as well, and in Hawaii we we get along. We try to. We have
you do.
to. We have to. But in Hawaii, there's leis here that we brought all the way for you from across the ocean, and we'd like to say thank you. Could we approach?
Yes, of course. Oh my goodness.
Thank you so much.
Well, I want to thank you. Smells beautiful. And I want to just say this. Maybe we'll end on this note, and I apologize for that. Hawaii, as you have indicated, has long been known as a melting pot of many, many different people who get along very well. You've become a model for the country in that respect, and we thank you all very much. I'm going to apologize. I got to give a speech in a little while, so I got to get going. But we are in this together. And the main point that I want to make is that this is an election that we cannot sit out. And by that, I mean not only the importance of you voting, but what we need to do is make sure that our friends, co-workers, and family vote as well. You know? And when we bring working people and young people into the political process, we're going to win this election. We're going to transform this nation. Thank you very much for being part of the political revolution.